What made you move away from Punchy?
So I actually got to the point where I'd kind of reached a ceiling in what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So in operations, it's very process driven. I'd put a lot of the processes in place, and the next growth stage for me would have been us getting a supermarket listing, going heavily international,
Mm-hmm.
and we weren't quite there yet. That was a few years away. So simultaneously, I then had this need for a casual suit and couldn't find any good ones. Started talking about it at like a few barbecues and dinner parties, and just sort of floating out the idea that if anyone else had a similar problem.
Yeah.
Turned out they had. So those two things both sort of came at the same time. Then spoke to Julian, who's my co-founder, and said, look, I've got this idea. What do you think? Is this something you'd be interested in getting involved in? And we started doing some more research into it. Realised the timing of a casual suit was perfect because it was sort of just post-COVID.
Yeah.
The way we dressed to work changed drastically.
Mm-hmm.
Having gone from this very formal in the office 5 days a week to a lot more hybrid in and out of the office. The workplace had casualised massively. And also post-COVID, I think everyone got very used to being super comfortable at home in their tracksuits, to being released in the wild again, and naturally wanting to look sharper and smarter, and back in pubs and bars and clubs, and potentially meeting or dating or whatever it might be, but still wanting to be comfortable at the same time. So the sort of social dress code and work dress code had changed. So the timing worked out well from that perspective. So we decided to give it a crack. But
were you still Punchy when you were going to give it a crack and kind of doing it?
So I stayed working at Punchy for a year and a half.
Okay.
So I was doing both for a year and a half, which was pretty mental.
Yeah.
I was very lucky that Punchy gave me a lot of autonomy in my role, and worked super hard to make sure that I didn't drop what I was doing at Punchy.
Yeah.
But it got to the point where I couldn't take on more, and there's probably more that I could have done retrospectively. In terms of like, okay, fine, the operations sorted, but could I now go and sell some stuff, or could I go and help in other areas of the business?
Yeah.
So yeah, they very kindly gave me a lot of leeway to go and do that. I simultaneously was working silly hours, like 12+ hour days consistently, and weekends, etc., to make that work. But it gave me a bit of freedom, or stability is probably a better way of putting it, to go and test the waters with this new idea. Yeah. Whilst still having
which is really rare,
employment at the same time.
Amazing to have that from those
which is
guys.
super rare.
Yeah,
super rare. So I'm very, very grateful to the guys at Punchy, and I think at first they were a bit like, what? And then they were like, actually, do we want to promote entrepreneurialism within the company? What sort of culture do we want to have? Do we want to push people to do better? And I think realised that's sort of how they started the business as well.
Yeah.
Also, that's how they started Punchy.
Yeah.
So to then hold someone back from doing that would be quite contradictory.
Yeah.
Albeit possibly through gritted teeth at times, because it's a startup and you need everyone functioning.
Yeah.
So
it's a difficult balance to get.
It's a really difficult balance to get, and I think got away with it because I was doing 100% of my job to the full extent.
Yeah. It's almost a good agreement that you played your part in.